Hi, this video is for explaining all the different components on a XLS 204, 206, or 209 label head, how to set it up on our equipment, and how to do just a little changeover and to understand what things are called. So back in 2024, we switched over to this bridge mount on our equipment on our EPEL 70 and EPEL 40 machines. Due to this bridge mount, we also changed over the dispense edges, which are now adjustable up and down. So we don't adjust the label head up and down anymore. We just adjust the dispense edge up and down. And since I say the word dispense edge, I want to go into explanation of parts. What is what? So right here, this is the dispense edge. This is the edge where the labels come out. We really have 3 or 4 components that we want to talk about. The application roller. This one is responsible to has two applications. It mechanically attaches the label onto the pouch or substrate, but it also pulls the pouch or presses the pouch back onto the conveyor and pulls it through. So if there's any stall of any kind, this roller will prevent that from happening. The part where the label actually pulls over, we call that the dispense blade. The entire part, dispense edge. The part where the label pulls over is the dispense blade. And then we have the label sensor right here that always needs to see the label. The label sensor is a slot sensor, and the label needs to go through that slot, right? So, and you can test that on a white label like this anyway. If you push it over and it stops where the label is, right? So now I do know that it is inside the label material, so I back it up a little bit and close that knob. Now, here we have the dispense edge fixing. This is the fixing that allows you to move the dispense edge up and down. As you can see right now, the dispense edge is a little bit away from the conveyor. The reason why we would want that is for label changeover. When we thread new labels in it, we can pull the label material out and get it around the corner. If the dispense blade is all the way down to the conveyor, that would be much more trickier. So we always do this. However, once you're done with your label threading, you need to bring it back down again. And let me show you the easiest way of doing that. You open this knob here. Yeah, everything is already tensioned up. You open this knob, and now I'm pushing the dancer arm from the unwind roller. And I just, I don't know if can the camera see the roller and the dispense edge. When I push this roller, the dispense edge goes down because I'm basically undoing the pressure from the labels. So I'm not touching dispense edge at all. I'm just touching this roller, and I'm bringing the dispense edge down like this. Now I'm going with my head down to the conveyor and check the height of everything. Once the orange roller touches the conveyor, that's where you want to stop. And of course, the dispense blade needs to be high enough that the pouch can go through. So if you have a flat pouch without a zipper, it can be closer to the conveyor. But if you have zippers on your pouch, it needs to be away a little bit, otherwise the zipper would get caught on it. So right now it is probably letting even a zipper through. So now I can close the fixing handle and lock that back into place. So now we have a whole bunch of rollers on the machine, and I'm going into each one now. So we already discussed this one. That is the dancer arm for the unwind roller. And then we have a couple big deviation rollers. Deviation meaning it deviates the material from one direction into the other. After the dispense edge, we go up with the scrap paper and we go around the first deviation roller. We go around the drive roller and around the second deviation roller. So those are the small deviation rollers and those are the bigger ones. Those two are always important to keep them clean. Once a week, you want to use some isopropyl and just wipe them. Please do not use a knife. Same with this. Don't use a knife on that. Use some low solution alcohol to get rid of any adhesive or silica buildup. Now, but there's one more dance arm, which is this one. This is not a dance arm for the rewind roller. This one too will initiate when the machine starts up. You see that every day when you turn the machine on, this thing goes up and down. So we have two dancer arms, the rewind roller dancer arm or the rewind dancer arm and the unwind dancer arm. Okay. This one is responsible for telling the machine that you still have labels because it needs to go back and forth and back and forth. If it doesn't do that, then the machine would think you're out of labels and it will stop. And hence, because of this reason, you must always close this knob. If you don't close this knob, the machine is capable of just dispensing labels without this going back and forth, which after 4, 5, 6 labels, you will go into an error because the machine thinks you're out of labels. So always put this into tension and close this knob. Now, when we change over from one label to another, we're going to open the crimp roller. This is called the crimp roller and the crimp roller handle. We open this. We turn the machine off. There's a button on the rear. So now I turned the machine off. Now I'm unwinding a little bit of paper. And now I rip it right here. The reason why I'm doing that is because once I want to reload the same labels, I have enough leader. We call the part that has no labels on it, we call that the leader. I have enough leader to rethread it. If I rip it on a dispense edge, I will waste a bunch of labels. So now, how do I get this core off? I push this green button. And now I can just pull it back out. Just like that. If you push the green button and let it go, it will first retract and then the label material will retract with it, and then it goes back out again and it won't slide off like that anymore. So you want to keep it pushed and pull the label material out and then you release it. So don't do this because then you will have to unwind the entire core manually. Okay, so this is now just a mechanical check or a mechanical explanation of what's going on here. We're going to cut the video, we rethread it and turn the machine on, and I'm going into the setup of the screen. Okay, so now we are back with the machine turned on. When you turn the machine on, it will most likely go directly into online. To take it offline, you push button number 2. So let me quickly explain this screen here. We have 4 buttons. 1 and 3 are scroll buttons, 2 is an enter key, and 4 is a program key. So when you push 4, you go into you go into the first program, which is called label setup. Now I mentioned that 1 and 3 are scroll buttons. Now I can scroll from label setup to machine setup to other menus here, right? So we don't need to go anywhere in here. If you ever need to go in there, it's probably best if you call us and we're going to walk you through of what you need to do. However, what the 2 systems or the 2 menus that you will use most, label setup, you will use 99% of any time you need to go in here, and machine setup very seldom, but it could be. So label setup, I'm again going into number 2, which is the enter key, label setup. So the first thing you see, of course, is load product profile. There will only be a profile in here if we stored one in machine setup, right? So let's click if we already stored one. No setup available. So there you go. So now we're going to go into a little bit farther. So gap detect mode, forget about it. We set this kind of stuff up here in the factory, but dispense speed. It only has one meaning when you purchase a machine from us. The only meaning is here, how fast does the label dispense when you manually dispense a label. It has no meaning for production because we are encoding the conveyor always with the machine. So no matter what this is set at, the machine will dispense as fast as the conveyor is running. So what do I mean right now with this? 30 meters a minute. So let me quickly show you. I'm moving now this dispense edge up a bit so I can put my hand underneath the dispense edge. Close this again. Now I open this to put some tension back on it, just like so. And now I have a dispense speed of 30 meters a minute. So I'm going out of everything into the offline, and I'm pushing this double arrow button, which will dispense a label. So now please observe how fast the label dispenses. Okay. Okay, so now you've seen this. Now go back into label setup and go back into dispense speed, and I'm bringing this down to any other number, doesn't matter. Go back into here and manually dispense. So now you see how this is going much slower, right? So this is the only effect the dispense speed has when I manually dispense a label. Okay, so now slew speed, forget about it. This is, I don't want to go into this right now, what that means. Label pitch, this is something you will need to know. Label pitch is label plus gap. So you measure the beginning of one label to the beginning of the next label on a straight down. So probably right here, you measure the beginning of this label to the beginning of the next label. This is called your label pitch. Okay, not label length, but label pitch. So you measure that and you input that here manually. I show you in a little bit how you can do that fully automatic. Then we have the label stop offset. That is now a number that shows that will stop the label after this label sensor has seen the gap. So right now, what you want is you want the edge of the label flush with the edge of the dispense edge. You can be a little bit back, you can be a little bit forward, but not by much. A 32nd, a 16th, you have a little bit of leeway, but if you make this flush, best practice to go by. So if you raise this number, more label will stick out. If you lower this number, the label will retract. Okay. Then we have the start offset. That is another setting that you can do while you are in online mode, but you also can change it in here. And then we have the product links. Now, why do you want to have a product links in here? The sensor sees the front of the pouch, and that gives the machine the trigger to dispense a label. But it could be that on a pouch like this is a very long pouch, for example. On a pouch like this, the sensor sees the pouch, doesn't see it right here, and then sees it here again. That would be multiple triggers, and the machine would dispense as many labels as it sees as it gets triggers. When you put product lengths in of the actual length of the pouch plus 10 or 20 more points, that will inhibit any kind of signal it gets from that same pouch again. Okay, so don't make this number exactly the length of your pouch, make that 10 or 20 points higher. And that is about all you need to know in the label setup right now. So let me go into machine setup. Right here you have store product profile, product one. So you can now store any kind of profile here. There's nothing set up right now, but I'm going to just demonstrate this. I'm going to make a profile that is called ABC. And I'm going to save this. So now nobody knows what this profile represents right now, but it doesn't matter. So now I'm going to go back into label setup, into load product profile, and here is my ABC. Now I could click through and load this profile, which I'm not going to do right now. What I want to do right now is I want to go into the online mode. Now we have the ABC right here. This is now the profile we just created. And now I'm pushing button number 4. Remember, 491 was the setting we had. So here you can also make this setting. The higher this number, the later the label will dispense. The lower the number, the sooner the label will dispense. Now, you remember I just changed the speed of the dispense speed to, what was it, about 20 or something like that. Now, if I turn the conveyor on, you see now the speed the conveyor runs. Now I'm slowing down the conveyor, and this number will also slow down with it. So that's what I was talking about earlier. The dispense speed that you set up in label setup has only meaning for manual dispensing, but it has no meaning for automation, for actually applying in production mode. Last but not least, how do I teach the machine the label lengths? You make sure that the sensor is inside the label material. You make sure that the sensor sees the gap. And then you push button number, then you push this double arrow button for 2 seconds, and that will dispense 2 labels. And here's our number. So this is how you automatically can set up your label pitch by just holding this double arrow button and dispensing 2 labels. So now I'm going to go back to what I have showed earlier. I'm opening this handle and I'm pushing ever so slightly this roller and lower the dispensage until the roller starts to turn, which is right about now. Okay, so now you noticed how there's now labels sticking out. I'm closing this handle and I manually dispense a label. So now, while I dispense the label, I also pulled on the conveyor and just crumpled up the label right onto the conveyor from which I can remove it from. Okay, I hope this will explain many things here. Please refer back to this video to understand what the different components are called. Thank you.